Welcome to our deep dive into the dark world of the most notorious serial killers in history. Today, we'll uncover the chilling tales of the top 10 worst serial killers, exploring their twisted motives, gruesome methods, and the cunning investigations that eventually led to their capture. Before we begin, if you're fascinated by true crime stories and want to stay updated with our latest content, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us bring more in-depth analyses and intriguing stories. Now let's venture into the shadows of history to understand the minds behind the crimes that have both horrified and captivated the world. In the annals of crime history, serial killers have always held a macabre fascination for the public and criminologists alike. These individuals who commit multiple murders over a period of time often leave behind a trail of devastation and unanswered questions. What drives them to kill? How do they choose their victims? And how are they eventually brought to justice? In this exploration, we delve into the lives and crimes of the 10 most notorious serial killers of all time, shedding light on their dark paths from their first kill to their eventual capture. Number 1. Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy is perhaps one of the most infamous serial killers in American history, known for his charm and intelligence, which he used to lure his victims. Bundy's killing spree stretched across several states in the 1970s, claiming the lives of at least 30 young women, although the true number remains unknown. His method of operation typically involved approaching his victims in public places, feigning injury or impersonating an authority figure, before kidnapping, sexually assaulting, and ultimately murdering them. Bundy's capture was as dramatic as his crimes. After 2 escapes from custody, his final arrest in 1978 came from a routine traffic stop, leading to his conviction on multiple counts of murder. His trials received nationwide attention, partly due to Bundy's decision to represent himself, showcasing his chilling charisma and intelligence. Bundy's execution in 1989 did little to close the chapter on the pain he caused, leaving a lasting impact on America's criminal justice system and its psychological profiling of serial killers. Besides his notoriety as a serial killer, Ted Bundy had a lesser-known stint as a suicide hotline operator in Seattle, Washington. Ironically, he worked alongside Ann Rule, a former police officer and future true crime writer, who would later write one of the definitive books about Bundy's crimes. Bundy was reportedly good at his job, with Rule noting his genuine empathy and ability to talk people down from crises. Number 2. Jeffrey Dahmer. Jeffrey Dahmer, also known as the Milwaukee Cannibal, horrified the world with his gruesome series of murders between 1978 and 1991. Dahmer killed 17 young men and boys, his horrific acts not limited to murder, but also involving rape, dismemberment, and cannibalism. What set Dahmer apart was his attempt to create submissive, zombie-like victims by injecting hydrochloric acid or boiling water into their brains. His capture was as unexpected as it was a relief when one of his intended victims escaped and flagged down police officers, leading them back to Dahmer's apartment of horrors. Inside, authorities discovered Polaroids of dismembered victims and body parts stored in his refrigerator and freezer, a grim catalog of his crimes. Dahmer's trial shed light on his deeply troubled psyche, marked by fantasies of control and domination, leading to his conviction and subsequent murder by a fellow inmate in 1994. Before his arrest, Jeffrey Dahmer served in the U.S. Army. He was stationed in Germany from 1979 to 1981 as a combat medic. Dahmer's military service ended early due to his alcoholism, but during his time in the Army, there were no known incidents or crimes linked to him. This chapter of his life remains a stark contrast to his later actions. Number 3. John Wayne Gacy. John Wayne Gacy, known as the Killer Clown, combined a facade of community involvement and cheerful clown performances with a dark predilection for murder. Between 1972 and 1978, Gacy raped and murdered at least 33 young men and boys, burying most of them beneath his Chicago home. Gacy's double life unraveled when the disappearance of a 15-year-old boy led police to his doorstep. Subsequent surveillance and investigation revealed a horrifying scene. a crawlspace turned graveyard. Gacy's arrest and trial brought to light his manipulative personality and the extent of his crimes, shocking the nation. Convicted of 33 murders, he spent 14 years on death row before his execution in 1994. Gacy's case prompted a re-evaluation of missing persons cases and the methods police use to investigate suspected serial killers. Known for performing at children's parties as Pogo the Clown, Gacy would sometimes stay in his clown makeup and costume to commit his murders. This led to the chilling duality of Gacy's persona, juxtaposing the joyful image of a clown with the heinous nature of his crimes, a dichotomy that has haunted the public's perception of clowns since. Number 4. Andrei Chikatilo. Andrei Chikatilo, known as the Butcher of Rostov, stands as one of the most prolific serial killers in history, with 52 confirmed victims between 1978 and 1990 in the Soviet Union. Chikatilo's method of killing was particularly brutal, involving stabbing and mutilation, driven by a combination of deep psychological issues and impotence. His victims, mostly young runaways, women and children, were lured under the pretense of friendship or assistance. Chikatilo managed to evade capture for years, due to Soviet police forces' ineffectiveness and denial about the possibility of a serial killer in their midst. His eventual capture in 1990 was the result of a large-scale operation involving undercover officers and surveillance. Chikatilo's trial, held in a specially constructed courtroom to accommodate the public's demand for justice, ended with his execution in 1994. His case opened up discussions about the challenges of policing in the Soviet Union and the psychological profile of serial killers. Chikatilo, a former schoolteacher, was fired from 2 schools in the 1970s for allegations of child molestation. Despite these early signs of predatory behavior, his actions were not connected to his later crimes until after his arrest. This aspect of his life highlights the missed opportunities to intervene before he became one of the most prolific serial killers in history. Number 5. Gary Ridgeway. Gary Ridgeway, known as the Green River Killer, confessed to killing 71 women in Washington state during the 1980s and 1990s, making him one of the most prolific serial killers in U.S. history. Ridgeway targeted sex workers and runaways, whom he strangled before dumping their bodies around the Green River area. His moniker, the Green River Killer, was derived from the discovery of the first victims in the river's vicinity. Ridgeway evaded capture for decades, partly due to his unassuming appearance and employment stability, which did not fit the typical profile of a serial killer. His arrest in 2001 was a direct result of advances in DNA technology, which matched saliva samples he had given police years earlier. Ridgeway's plea bargain, which spared him the death penalty in exchange for cooperation in locating his victims' remains, highlighted the use of forensic science in solving cold cases and brought some closure to the families of the victims. Ridgeway, the Green River Killer, held a job painting trucks for nearly 32 years, and during this time he would often paint over his fingerprints to prevent leaving any behind on his victims. This meticulous effort to avoid detection showcased Ridgeway's cunning and helped him evade capture for nearly 2 decades. Number 6. Alen Waros. Alen Waros, a name synonymous with one of the few female serial killers, shocked the world with her series of murders in Florida between 1989 and 1990. Waros, a sex worker, killed 7 men who had picked her up along Florida's highways, claiming self-defense against their alleged assaults. Her life, filled with tragic events from an early age, became a case study in the interplay between environmental factors and criminal behavior. Warnos's capture followed a minor traffic accident involving a vehicle belonging to one of her victims. Her subsequent trial, where she was depicted both as a monster and a victim of her circumstances, sparked debates on the death penalty, mental health, and the treatment of women in the justice system. Waros was executed in 2002, but her story remains a poignant narrative on the margins of society and the desperation that can drive one to commit heinous acts. Often cited as one of the first female serial killers to gain widespread notoriety, Waros claimed that her killing spree was motivated by self-defense against violent clients. Waros, who worked as a sex worker, insisted that her victims had either raped or attempted to rape her, challenging the public's perception of serial killers and sparking debates on gender and violence. Number 7. Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker. Richard Ramirez, known as the Night Stalker, terrorized Los Angeles with a series of home invasion murders in 1984 and 1985. His indiscriminate choice of victims, ranging from a 9-year-old girl to a married couple in their 60s, and his brutal methods, which included shooting, stabbing, and sexual assault, spread widespread fear. Ramirez's satanic symbols left at crime scenes added a chilling signature to his crimes. His capture came unexpectedly when civilians recognized him from media photographs, leading to his apprehension by residents of an East Los Angeles neighborhood. Ramirez's trial was a media circus, notable for his outbursts and the devil's sign drawn on his hand. Convicted of 13 murders, Ramirez received the death penalty, dying of natural causes in 2013. His case highlighted the role of media in assisting law enforcement and the psychological impact of serial killings on the public psyche. A committed Satanist, Ramirez would often leave symbols and signs associated with Satanism at his crime scenes. However, a lesser-known fact is that Ramirez was heavily influenced by his older cousin, a Vietnam War veteran who shared graphic stories and photos from the war, which helped desensitize Ramirez to violence. Number 8. Dennis Rader. Dennis Rader, who gave himself the moniker BTK, Bind, Torture, Kill, eluded capture for over 3 decades while committing a series of 10 murders in Wichita, Kansas, from 1974 to 1991. Rader's taunting letters to police and media, filled with details only the killer could know, created a climate of fear and frustration. His double life as a family man and church leader made his crimes even more inconceivable to those who knew him. Rader's capture in 2005 was a direct result of his own arrogance. He resumed sending letters to the police after years of silence, including a floppy disk that was traced back to his church. Rader's trial and subsequent life sentence without the possibility of parole brought to light the chilling capacity for evil to hide in plain sight. His case is a stark reminder of the importance of forensic technology and diligent investigative work in solving cold cases. Number 9. Peter Sutcliffe. Peter Sutcliffe, known as the Yorkshire Ripper, was responsible for the murder of 13 women and the attempted murder of 7 others in England between 1975 and 1980. Sutcliffe targeted women who were out at night, using a hammer and knife to carry out his attacks, which he chillingly described as missions from God to eliminate prostitutes. His ability to evade capture was partly due to police mishandling and the dismissal of crucial evidence. Sutcliffe's eventual capture in 1981 during a routine police check revealed the true extent of his crimes, leading to a life sentence in prison. His case had a lasting impact on British policing, leading to significant changes in how serial murder investigations are conducted. Sutcliffe's death in 2020 closed a dark chapter in British criminal history, but left lingering questions about the handling of the case and the media portrayal of his victims. Before his arrest, he had been interviewed by the police on 9 separate occasions. Sutcliffe was able to avoid suspicion and continue his series of murders due in part to police oversights and the failure of the investigations to connect the dots. This chilling detail highlights not only the cunning of Sutcliffe in evading capture, but also the significant challenges and missteps in the law enforcement processes of the time, which ultimately allowed him to continue his violent spree until his capture in 1981. Number 10. Harold Shipman. Harold Shipman, a trusted general practitioner in England, was one of the most prolific serial killers in recorded history, with an estimated 250 victims. His method of murder was alarmingly covert, administering lethal doses of diamorphine to his patients, and then falsifying medical records to explain their deaths as natural. Shipman's crimes came to light in 1998 after a funeral director noticed an unusually high number of cremation certificates for Shipman's patients. His subsequent arrest and trial unveiled a horrifying breach of trust, as Shipman targeted the elderly and vulnerable under the guise of medical care. Convicted of 15 murders in 2000, Shipman was sentenced to life in prison, where he died by suicide in 2004. His case prompted widespread reform in the UK healthcare system, including stricter controls on drug access and changes to the death certification process. Shipman's legacy is a grave reminder of the potential for evil in the guise of caregiver, challenging the very foundations of medical trust. An intriguing and less commonly discussed aspect of Harold Shipman's life is his proficiency and interest in long-distance running. Shipman was known to participate in marathons and long-distance events, often using running as a means to relieve stress. This hobby presents a stark contrast to his criminal activities, offering a glimpse into the seemingly ordinary lifestyle he maintained outside of his heinous crimes. This dichotomy between Shipman's outward appearance as a health-conscious individual and his secret life as one of Britain's most prolific serial killers underscores the complex and often hidden nature of criminal minds. We have now reached the end of our harrowing journey through the lives of the 10 most notorious serial killers of all time. From Ted Bundy's deceptive charm to Gary Ridgway's sinister hunting grounds along the Green River, we've explored the depths of human depravity and the relentless pursuit of justice that brought these monsters to their knees. These stories remind us of the darkness that lurks in the shadows and the resilience of those who stand against it. If this video has intrigued you and you're eager for more true crime stories, analyses, and unsolved mysteries, make sure to hit the like button, share this video with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. Your engagement is crucial for us to continue providing quality content. Thank you for watching, and remember, stay curious, stay vigilant, and until next time, keep seeking the truth.